All right, I finally got it. Both of them are recording this time. Yes, I'm 100% sure.
For sure, for sure.
All right, guys, this is Nate. It's our third attempt at this. I suck. We're Lace 'em Up. My name's Nate. We have the other Nate here, and we have Daniel filling in for Jesse. We're going to go over some basketball today. All right, so getting into the rankings, first we have Russell Westbrook. I almost said Russell Wilson there. Stephen Curry. 3, we have John Wall, Kyrie, Dame, Chris Paul, Kyle Lowry, Kemba Walker, Mike Conley, Eric Bledsoe. All right, guys, so what do we think about Russell Westbrook and Steph Curry in that first tier? Do we think that maybe Steph Curry could be that first spot, or do we think that Westbrook definitely has that on lock?
Westbrook's got that on lock. I think with the addition of Paul George and Carmelo, he's gonna have more opportunities for assists.
Yeah,
and and rebounds too. You saw it in today's game. He's an animal on the board. So I don't know if he averages a triple double again because that's insane, but I think he gets pretty close to it.
Yeah, maybe like 8 assists, 7 rebounds, maybe 10 assists though, because he does have people that can shoot this year, rather than last year when he was just kind of giving it to the big men, hoping that they would dunk it for an assist for him. Nate,
Exactly.
What do you think?
Wait, what was this for?
Russell Westbrook and Stephen Curry, because I know you're the local Warriors fan.
Warriors kid.
All right.
Well, I think Russell Westbrook he'll drop in scoring and probably raise his assists. Like tonight, he had 16 assists, which is pretty freaking crazy. And he only had 21 points. So, so I mean, with what's his name, George and Anthony, he doesn't even have to try to get assists anymore. They're probably going to make the majority of the shots they put up.
Yeah.
And
what do you think about his rebounds, though?
He's going to be good. Huh?
What do you think about Russell Westbrook's rebounds, though? Do you think those are going to go down as well?
Well, today he's still got double-digit rebounds, so I doubt it. Yeah. I mean, he's just a beast, like, wherever he goes. So he's just going to grab the boards no matter what.
Yeah. Alrighty, so now so what do you guys think about Steph Curry then? So do you think that he can pass Russell Westbrook, or he's stuck at that number 2 spot till Westbrook either gets hurt or just stops producing, which is pretty unlikely.
Yeah, he's stuck there. I don't see Westbrook losing that top spot unless something crazy happens where Paul George and Anthony and himself can't get on the same page for some reason. Being that it's their first year together, and Steph's got that continuity with KD already having a season under his belt, but I just don't see that happening.
With Russell, I think he's the best, like, stat wise. But if I were to pick a team, I'd pick Steph over Russell Westbrook, just because he's a better dribbler, he's a better shooter. He's not as good on defense, obviously, but I mean, I think he's more of a threat on the court than like Russell Westbrook is offensively.
Yeah, because Steph Curry could pull up from anywhere, and anywhere meaning like realistically. Yeah. Okay, so now we go into tier 2 where we have 3 through 5. John Wall, Kyrie, and Dame. Out of those 3, who do we think is the best and why?
Well, in terms of fantasy production, I'd have to say maybe Kyrie, just because he needs to be.
Yeah.
Just because the Celtics team's depleted without Gordon Hayward. So in terms of necessity and potential, I'd say Kyrie, but John Wall's a heck of a player. The Wizards, obviously a good team. Damian, same thing. They're all great players, but I think Kyrie just needs to be that player.
Yeah, especially because basically the whole Boston team's gone except for Al Horford and Marcus Smart. Because of the trade and because they needed to sign Gordon Hayward, who's no longer on the team because of the injury. Hopefully he gets better and maybe he comes back for the playoff run, but I doubt it. Maybe he's out till next year.
Yeah, that's like nasty. I don't know about playoffs.
So yeah, Nate, who do you think of those 3 is the best player between John Wall, Kyrie, and Damian Lillard?
Mm, I think I'd take Damian Lillard over both of them.
Why do you think that he would maybe do better in
Shots,
fantasy?
whereas Kyrie and like John Wall can shoot as well. So and
Yeah.
Kyrie's gonna have to force a lot of shots now
Hmm.
because no more Gordon Hayward pass to
Yeah.
and who else can score? So
Marcus Smart.
Tatum-
Jason Tatum.
and,
Yeah, I was just about to
Jaylen
say
Brown.
Jason Tatum looks good.
Jaylen Brown looked real good too. I think he'll be a streaming option.
Yeah, because if you only have
That's
fucking
smart.
3 bench spots, you might have to stream.
Yeah, our format's horrible.
Shout out to Jesse.
But
Oh my god. I just
Trade
lost
Ravens.
Tobias Harris because I can't afford to have another bench spot for Julius Randle.
you should have had like 12
I had to
players.
drop Dennis Smith Jr. because I couldn't carry 3 point guards, and he's
I
gonna be
don't
a stud.
I told Jesse that I'm gonna switch it, but he was like, "Oh, how do you do it?" And I was just like, "Okay." All right. So getting back into the into the rankings, I think that John Wall is probably the best of the 3. I think we each have a different person, which is kind of interesting. I just think John Wall brings scoring plus assists as well as rebounds. 8 rebounds for point guard is kind of interesting. It's kind of like the Russell Westbrook kind of stat.
Yeah.
So maybe he gets production, especially in our league where we have 3 categories, and you can't just rely on scoring for your points. So yeah, after the top 5, it kind of gets murky. Chris Paul, who the last game looked horrible. Kyle Lowry, who's just I think he's in the same boat as Chris Paul. He's getting old, and they're just not really producing like they were a couple seasons ago. And he just got paid, I think 2 years ago or last year, and I don't see why they paid him that much money. I wouldn't have paid him that much money. I'd much rather have Corey Joseph, who's like a younger player, and then maybe get somebody in the draft in the upcoming years. But I think they were in compete now mode. Then they paid for an aging Kyle Lowry, who's kind of taking a backseat to DeMar DeRozan.
Yeah, they just saw that weak Eastern Conference and thought maybe they can make a run, but the Eastern Conference is just so top heavy where I think the Raptors are kind of just stuck there.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of like how the Clippers were of the Western Conference the last couple of years. Like they're in the running, but they never could really make it over the hump.
Yeah,
which they should have blown up that team.
Mm-hmm. Nate, what do you think about the 2 older guys?
Who, Lowry and Paul?
Yeah.
They're both kind of like meh. Like honestly, Kemba Walker's better than both of them.
Yeah.
Lowry, I don't know. I haven't really heard anything from Lowry, like how he's been producing. And Chris Paul, now that he's with Houston, he doesn't have anyone that he can really like lob it to anymore. Yeah, you have Capella, but I mean, the Clippers' offense just ran straight through Chris Paul, so
Yeah.
it's gonna be hard for him to adjust.
Yeah. I think James Harden pretty much is the point guard for that team, even though he's not a point guard.
It's like, yeah, he's pretty much a point guard though. He's a
Yeah.
playmaker.
Alrighty, so after
Yeah, it's kind of like a positionless league now. I can't even talk.
yeah.
Where you don't really have like a point guard, just like a ball handler.
Yeah.
Like Giannis isn't a point guard; he's a ball handler.
Yeah, like Jesse likes to say that Ben Simmons is the point guard of that team. Even if he's handling the ball, he's still listed as a small forward. He still plays a small forward position. Any rankings, he's going to be a small forward, power forward, just because that's the size he is. But he has to play that point position because he's not valuable on the wings because he can't shoot, and people are just pretty much going to sag off. Yeah, he can drive, but I don't know. I think that he's most useful as a point forward, not a point guard.
I think Ben Simmons can play point guard though.
I think he
Like,
can, but I don't. I think him going against Kyrie would put him in skates the whole day. I'd rather have Kyrie than Ben Simmons at a point guard position. You know what I mean? If I'm going to have a point guard, I'd rather have a person that's going to actually play point guard and can defend other point guards rather than somebody that's 6'11". Yeah, because that's crazy height for a point guard, but he can't move like a point guard. He doesn't really have the handles like a Kyrie or or even like a Steph who relies mainly on like hip movement and all that stuff. I just don't think that Ben Simmons can be an elite point guard unless he can start shooting, because basically all he's going to be is a passing guy as well as a driving. So I don't know. Getting back into the point guards, we have after Kemba, we have Mike Conley and Eric Bledsoe. Conley and Bledsoe played good defense, so I think that's why they're on here. But for fantasy wise, I think that each player is on a team where they don't really have much help other than Mike Conley having Marc Gasol and Eric Bledsoe. The young team, I don't know. I think the young team needs a couple years to develop, but Mike Conley's definitely on an island with Marc Gasol alone.
Yeah.
Nate, how do you feel about those last two?
I don't trust any of them.
Yeah.
It's really good points.
Yeah, Mike Conley too is like Chris Paul and Kyle Lowry. It's like they paid him way too much.
Yeah, I wouldn't have paid max money for Kyle Lowry, Chris Paul. I wouldn't. The only people I'd pay max money for, the top 5, and maybe Kemba. But even then, you kind of restrict yourself from signing other free agents to make your team better. And I think that's what most teams are realizing.
They're learning from the Warriors, man. I mean, Durant took a pay cut to be on that team.
But I think you have to think about it like this. Durant is not he's not really in it for the money anymore. He's kind of just in it to win, and he wants to secure his legacy, because after he lost that finals and hasn't been back since, it's kind of been like, well, if he's that great, why didn't he make the playoffs? LeBron's made a consistency for the last 8 years, something like that, since 2012. Yeah.
Do you guys think Durant's gonna leave?
What was that?
You think Durant will ever leave? Or do you think they're just gonna keep Steph and Durant and then the other two?
I think
Klay
that
Thompson's probably the first one to leave that team.
If anything, I think Draymond is more of a team player, and I think he maybe take a pay cut, but he's still going to want a big payday. Because as Draymond, I think that
Draymond's going to get max. Someone's going to offer him max.
Yeah, and then the Warriors are going to have to match that, or he'll say, "Well, I kind of don't really want all that money, and maybe I'll just take $20 million, or maybe I'll just take like $18 million to keep this team together." I think if anybody were to leave, it would be Klay Thompson, just because he is a premier player. He plays the 3-and-D game, probably the best right after Kawhi Leonard, but I think he's definitely top of the league as a shooting guard. So getting into the shooting guard rankings, I think that from what I saw on Monday when they played against the Rockets, I think that Klay Thompson maybe moves past Jimmy Butler, just because Jimmy Butler doesn't seem to be fitting the system, because he does have an Andrew Wiggins and he does have Karl Anthony Towns taking production away from him. And I think Klay Thompson is comfortable where he is, just pretty much catch and shooting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jimmy Butler with the Bulls, he was kind of like their primary scorer.
Mm-hmm.
So, the ball had to be in his hands. Now with the Timberwolves, I don't think the ball is necessarily going to be in his hands as much. And he's not a great shooter. I mean, he's a good shooter, but he's definitely not as good as a shooter as Klay Thompson.
Oh, yeah. Klay Thompson.
Unfortunately, you don't get points really for defense unless you get steals, I guess. But
yeah, I think even CJ McCollum is better than Jimmy Butler at this point from production-wise. Although we haven't seen CJ McCollum play it because he's been suspended. But I think that in the offense that he is, they're going to rely on him and Dame just to pretty much chuck up shots and hope that they can win some games and get into the playoffs this year.
Yeah, they're probably looking like a 6 or 7 seed, honestly.
Yeah, they're fighting for the bottom half of the playoffs. Nate, what do you think about the shooting guards?
Yeah, I agree with you guys that Klay definitely should be ahead of Jimmy, just because he's probably one of the best two-way players. He's a really great three-point shooter, and he'll lock down your best player.
Yeah.
Like you said, McCollum maybe should be there. I mean, last season I think he's proved that he's one of the better point shooting guards.
Mm-hmm.
Now that he's got this problem.
Nate, what'd you say? It kind of cut out there.
He's still.
Uh-oh.
Hmm?
It kind of cut out. I couldn't really hear you. Hello?
Yeah, it's kind of laggy right now.
Uh,
That's okay. Just move forward.
all right, so getting after that, kind of a similar player to TJ McCollum is Bradley Beal. Kind of another player that just chucks up shots because it is only him and another guard playing in an offense. I think maybe Bradley Beal and CJ McCollum, similar players, but I think CJ McCollum gets a little more usage, as well as he kind of plays a point guard position when Dame isn't on the floor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Bradley Beal's more of like I guess catch and shoot, but John Wall's gonna be the primary guy there. So, and CJ and Damian kind of share it, I feel like. So, Bradley Beal and John Wall are kind of like 1 and 2, and then Damian and CJ are like 1A and 1B.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's probably why CJ's ahead of him, and he also gives you that flexibility to put him as a point guard.
Yeah. So after,
but then
yeah,
past that, like Devin Booker and DeMar, I don't know why Chris Middleton's there. I think I'd put Andrew Wiggins ahead of him.
Honestly, I think I'd put Oladipo over Middleton too.
I think the reason why I put him there is because Chris Middleton is basically going to have to play second fiddle to a Giannis who can't really shoot. So basically, Chris Middleton's going to get a lot of looks just because he's going to be on the perimeter. Giannis is going to drive in. There's going to be a lot of double teams. I think with Andrew Wiggins, the reason why I put him at 9 is because I thought Jimmy Butler would have a lot more production than he did in that game. I think that Andrew Wiggins has proven that even though there's another shooting guard / small forward there, that he can still get his production in. And Oladipo, I just don't know if he's there yet, like if he can produce, because as we've seen, this is maybe his 4th or 5th year, and he's still kind of struggling to put points up. I get that he was playing on a team with Westbrook last year, and that kind of puts him behind because he wasn't really getting the ball in his hands. But
Yeah.
But I think that he still needs to prove himself, so that's why I have Chris Middleton ahead of him. I think even maybe DeMar DeRozan should be a little bit lower just because he can't really shoot, and he does take threes, and that's going to probably lower your three-point percentages. But I think that Chris Middleton should be on the list. I don't know, maybe he should be lower just because Andrew Wiggins is proving himself, and maybe Oladipo might prove himself this year, but I think Chris Middleton deserves a spot on maybe the top 10 shooting guards.
Yeah, well, Oladipo had a good first game. He put up 22, 5 and 4 with 4 steals too, which I didn't expect that really from Oladipo.
Yeah, he's a good defensive player.
Yeah, but he is the Pacers if you think about it. So he's kind of in the same situation. Well, not really, as Kyrie, where they have to like carry their teams.
Mm-hmm.
So I think just the usage alone should put Oladipo higher on that list. But yeah, again, he's not proven, so we'll see. It was just one game.
Yeah. All right, so moving on to small forwards. Obviously, Giannis at the top. I think just because he's basically Westbrook as a small forward without a shot. He can
MVP.
Yeah, I don't know about MVP, but he can definitely move the ball. He can drive like anybody. The guy is Michael Jordan from Space Jam when he extends his arm to dunk the ball. That's who Giannis is.
With a 7-foot wingspan,
yeah, I think his wingspan is bigger than 7 feet. I don't know how big it is, but
honestly, I was very close to taking him ahead of Russell Westbrook at number 1. But I decided against it just because Russ was MVP. But I think Giannis gets it this year.
You think Giannis? I just think that maybe for MVP, Giannis can get it because he is on a team by himself and he's going to have to make his teammates better.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But I think that in fantasy, I think Westbrook may be the better player because he can shoot a little bit better and he's always going to get the volume. Maybe when Jabari comes back, Giannis kind of slips down a little bit. I don't know, maybe not, but then you have to think about progression of maybe a player like Thon Maker who can hit the outside shot and is also a long player. So you got to think about everybody that's coming to the Bucks and everything that could be. But I think Giannis is a big could be, and Westbrook is definitely a for sure. Like you don't really have to like guess what Westbrook is gonna be.
Yeah, that's true. I think the Bucks find their way into the top 4 in the East.
Oh yeah, the East is definitely depleted.
I
I think maybe even the Bucks get 2 spot after the Cavs because
They probably could, honestly.
I think
you know,
if Giannis becomes who he needs to be for this team, they are better than the Wizards. They're better than the Raptors. They're better than the Hornets. They're better
if
than the
Giannis is the
Celtics.
MVP this season, they're the number 2 seed.
Yeah, maybe even number 1 seed because maybe Cleveland rests their players, but even their bench is kind of sneaky good. They're old, but they're decent. So going on to number
Okay.
2, we have KD. What was that?
No, it's talking about the Bucks bench.
Oh,
But we move on.
okay. Moving on to number 2, we have Kevin Durant, who we all know can pretty much score from everywhere, get rebounds. I think the only place where he isn't as good as Giannis is maybe assists. I think that Kevin Durant being in the same team as so many prolific scorers, I think he'll get rebounds. I think maybe he'll score like 22 points a game, but I think that with Thompson looking good this year, Curry being Curry, who can shoot from anywhere, I think Kevin Durant maybe takes a step
And Nick
back a
Young.
little bit. Yeah, Nick Young, holy shit,
MVP.
scored the most points on a Warriors team who has 4 All-Stars on it.
Can't forget about Swaggy P.
Maybe Swaggy P, number 1 overall shooting guard this season.
MIP, bro. MIP, Swaggy P.
Oh my god. All right, so moving down from that, we have the Claw Kawhi Leonard, who is a great defensive player, but fantasy-wise, I think he'll be like a good 24 points a game, just because Aldridge is taking a step back from what his prime was when he was in Portland. Pau Gasol looks like he's about to pass out.
Manu's in a wheelchair.
Manu's hairline has receded all the way back to his neck. And then the point guard Tony Parker looks like maybe he takes a couple games off. He didn't play the first game, and DeJounte Murray, the second-year player, came in and they won that game. So maybe it's a sign that all these old players from the Spurs might be retiring after this year. Who knows?
Yeah. Kawhi's just reliable.
Yeah.
He's going to be consistent. You know,
Yeah.
Could always count on him. LeBron, kind of the same thing. But
I just feel like LeBron
you don't
takes
know
too
how
many games
he
off.
plays.
Yeah.
It's because he's getting up there in age. So, but he's going to get you those boards. He's going to get you those assists. I don't know if he puts up that many 30-point games this season, but that's why he's at 4.
Nate, what do you think about the rankings so far?
I think LeBron should maybe be number 2, definitely number 3, just because he can, like, his stat line is like Westbrook's, you know, like
Yeah.
he's a threat in all like categories. Whereas, yeah, like Kawhi is like great and he's a great defender, but LeBron, like last game, he had like 29 points, 16 rebounds, and 9 assists or something like that.
Yeah.
So even though he's getting old, it doesn't seem like he's going to be slowing down. So.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with you in the fact that he's one of I think he's the number 1 player in the world still, even at an old age. But I think that with old age comes times where maybe he's tired, and he even said in a post game interview that he didn't feel in shape and he didn't feel like he has in the past. So maybe he takes games off. He's been known to sit games, and I think the NBA was talking about penalizing players for purposely sitting games with no reason, basically. So maybe that reduces his amount of games that he sits, or maybe he just says fuck it and just kind of takes some games off because he's tired of carrying a team.
Yeah, he had a great stat line last game, but he played like 41 minutes or something like that.
Yeah, you can't play 41 games a minute
He
or
really
41
would
minutes
guess,
a game
So
for that many days in a row.
Mm-hmm.
So getting after that, we have Paul George, who probably would have been higher on the list if it weren't for so many good small forwards. Also, him being traded to a team where Carmelo's on there, as well as the MVP from last year, Russell Westbrook, kind of takes away from his scoring. Although today he did have 22 points. He looked good, but him and Melo, both of their shooting stats. I don't know. I think that maybe
they put up a lot of shots. That's
Yeah.
the only thing.
I think they shot
your
what?
field goal
Each of
percentage
them
is gonna
shot
be
like
good.
under 35% from the field today.
Yeah, well, Carmelo went 8 for 20,
Oh,
and then
God.
Paul George 9 for 23. High volume shooters. Obviously, they're not going to get you that many assists. Both of them each had 1 assist.
But that's not what
but-
you're looking at Paul George and Carmelo for.
Yeah,
You're kind of just looking at points and maybe rebounds, but assists, they haven't been guys that have known to been moving the ball, such as like a LeBron James or like a Giannis at the small forward position.
yeah, but even for rebounds, I mean, Russell Westbrook's on that same team.
Yeah.
and, he's
Well,
going to get
The
his
thing
fair
about
share
that
of
is
rebounds.
that even with Westbrook getting rebounds, their power forward, who I don't even know if they're playing this year
Steven
because
Adams.
Carmelo is playing that for, and Adams is just kind of since that playoff run they had when they lost 3-1 when they lost the 3-1 lead. Adams has looked horrible because he's kind of just said, "All right, Westbrook, do whatever you want."
He just takes up space, pretty much. That's what he does.
He's just been kind of bad. I thought that he was going to maybe be a top 5 center in the league, seeing as he was so efficient, but I don't know. He's kind of just not getting rebounds, not scoring. I kind of think that he didn't deserve that max contract that they're paying him, but who am I to say? I'm not a 7-foot center that plays in the NBA. So going on to number 6, Gordon Hayward. Going into the year, I was really high on this guy. He's a good shooter, not really into the assists, maybe a couple of rebounds. That's why I had him below Paul George and a little bit above Carmelo. Just because he won't get the rebounds and he won't get all the maybe 2 assists or something like that. But I think Carmelo is behind him just because of age, and he's behind George just because George is a more well-rounded player. And then after all those guys, we have Otto Porter, who just got paid, so obviously he's gonna take a step back because that's what happens when players take a step back, or when they get paid, they kind of take a step back because they can kind of breathe a little bit, which is opposite when you're going into a contract year. You kind of have to ball out. After him, we have Harrison Barnes, who's on a team pretty much by himself with aging Dirk.
Hey, but they have Dennis Smith Jr.
I say Dennis Smith Jr. is good, but I don't think he takes away from Harrison Barnes. I don't think they.
Sure.
No,
It would have been
anything he
different
adds
if they
to
would have
Harrison
had.
Barnes.
I think if they would have had the opportunity to take Jason Tatum and they took him instead of Dennis Smith, I think that would have caused a bigger problem for Barnes. But I think if anything, it kind of helps Barnes.
Yeah,
Maybe
he
a
needed a
little bit.
point guard to get the ball.
Yeah, because the point guards they had, Yogi Ferrell was okay, but I'm not scared. I'm not scared of a guy named Yogi Ferrell if I'm defending him. I'd rather much defend a Harrison Barnes who can shoot. So going off of that, we have Tobias Harris at the number 10 spot. I had him. I dropped him because our league only has 3 bench spots because.
Thanks.
Yeah, well, I put a waiver claim in for him too, so maybe I get him back before you guys.
So did I.
Because
We
I
put waiver claims in for Tobias
Wait,
Harris.
I have waiver priority number 1.
wait. How?
Oh, so you got him.
Wait, how do you see him?
Congrats.
How do you see the waiver priority?
I
don't know how to do it in ESPN.
Don't go through the app.
Oh, you see it through the phone or the
Yeah, go to the site and then go to your my team and then go to your pending move. I don't know. Go check if it's because if your guys is 1-2, then maybe it's just fucking with me.
Here we go. Waiver order. Oh, Tiffany Medina has waiver order number 1.
Who has 2?
Magic's AIDS babies.
Oh, that's me. Okay, I might get him back,
no
but
way
I
you
don't
get
know.
him back.
If I do,
Wait,
that would
wait,
be
go
pretty
to
interesting.
your you put in a waiver request for him, right, Daniel?
Yeah, I did. I'm very last because I had the last pick.
Yeah,
I mean,
But
'cause
why
I
does mine say waiver priority number 1?
maybe because it's a new day. I don't know. Maybe
Or
tomorrow
or maybe
you have
it's
it.
your waiver priority number 1. Like
Yeah, Yeah, you get that
Mhm.
certain day where you have it because everybody else used theirs.
We shall see.
Yeah, because Hoodie Melo's number 10.
Yeah, if I lose Harrison Barnes, I'd be pretty sad. But our league is trash anyway, so we might need to restart it. Who knows?
But yeah.
All
Power
right.
forwards, Anthony Davis.
Yeah, I
He's-
think it's an obvious one. I think that he's
Unless he
miles.
gets hurt for something like that.
I don't think he will. I think that he's with Boogie there. He's kind of getting the less attention. I want to say not really going to be covered by a center because usually when he plays, he gets the most attention by a center because he's the more or he was the more prolific scorer when it was just him and Omar Ashik or even the other guy they had. I forget his name.
Ilyasova?
No, they had another center. I forget his name. Jinxa? I think it was Alexis Jinxa or whatever.
Yeah. Draymond's going to get you
He's gonna fill out every.
this type of like.
He's gonna
LeBron
fill out
and
every
Russ
stat sheet. Yeah, but he's not gonna do as much scoring as LeBron or a Westbrook. I think this year he probably averages 9 points, maybe 12 boards, maybe like 9 assists and like 3 steals, 2 steals maybe. I don't know. But he's an all around player. I didn't draft him because he was a high scoring player. I drafted him because he can get pretty much every spot that you want him to get, or every stat you want him to get, he's gonna get. Hopefully,
unfortunately, I passed him up.
Well, we thought
I'd be
that
able
there
to play
was
2 point guards.
yeah, we thought
but-
there was 2 point guard spots, so or two at least a guard spot, even a utility, but that didn't work out. So,
well.
3 we have Kristaps Porzingis, who's a young player that has a lot of upside. And then same with Miles Turner. I think Kristaps is a little better than Miles Turner just because he's on a team basically by himself, and Miles Turner kind of has to spend most of his time hoping that somebody's going to throw him the ball, such as Oladipo. I think
He's not
Oladipo,
passing it.
yeah, Oladipo is going to pretty much take over the touches. So going off from that, Blake Griffin. I think Nate would argue that Blake Griffin's above those
Just
3.
a little bit.
I am agreeing with that.
Just because they got rid of Chris Paul. That's the
Yeah.
reason. Now Blake Griffin can do whatever he wants. You know?
Well, going into it, I thought Blake Griffin was going to be Blake Griffin of past, the guy who's pretty much just pulling up at the elbow, just elbow jumpers all day and dunking. But today showed that he can actually hit a 3. How many threes do you have today? Like 4?
Yeah, he was 3 for 6.
3 for 6.
Yeah,
So
he
he's
stretched the
50%
field.
shooting.
That's
Stretch the
crazy.
floor.
I think that helps DeAndre out a lot, to be honest.
DeAndre had like crazy words.
Yeah, well, in their early years together, they were kind of like, compacted in the paint where they didn't really help each other because they both couldn't shoot.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of hard to get offense flowing. But with Blake Griffin, he actually showed some handles today too. He brought the ball up the court sometimes on fast breaks. So,
I think if
definitely
anybody's
stretching the
benefiting
floor.
from Chris Paul to the Rockets, I think it's Blake Griffin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's ahead of Miles Turner, honestly.
Yeah, I think with after seeing tonight, I'd be comfortable putting him in that spot too. So going after Blake Griffin, we kind of have 6, 7, and 8 all kind of considered maybe in the same tier. Serge Ibaka, just a 3 and D kind of guy who can he can spread the floor. And I think that's why Toronto signed him and went after him. Kevin Love, pretty much the same thing, but he's playing the center position this year, which is kind of interesting how they're going to work all that out. But from what I saw when they played on Tuesday, I was kind of impressed with how he was playing this year. I think he gets a bad rap every year because he's kind of overshadowed by the top 2. But I think with Kyrie gone, he kind of gets a little more looks. But when Isaiah Thomas comes back, I think he'll go back to the same thing. People will be bashing him because he's not getting the same amount of shots. But I think Kevin Love has been pretty decent for that Cavs team the past couple of years. I just think they need a better defender than him. But
Yeah.
everybody thought that Tristan Thompson was going to kind of take take the reins when it came to like defending, but as we saw um, in the finals, he couldn't even fucking defend JaVale McGee. So I think that's
I don't think the Cavs are using Kevin Love right. I mean,
I don't
he's
either, but I
dominating.
think I think from what he's been able to do, he's been getting maybe not the most, but maybe just under the most that he's provided, because the Cavs have kind of been the Cavs have just been kind of weird signing Tristan Thompson to a max contract. He can't shoot. He's
That's because
proven.
of LeBron.
Yeah. I think LeBron should have been smarter than that.
Yeah, but LeBron's also like, that's my homie.
Yeah. Well, fuck your homies. You want to win. Just like when we play basketball with Miguel. We want him on our team, but we're just like, we'll take Daniel.
Absolute trash.
All right, so going on to centers. Number one,
That's
obviously, Karl Anthony Towns. Nate, you took him first with your pick. How are you justifying that over DeMarcus Cousins and Rudy Gobert?
Well, Karl Anthony Towns, he could shoot really well. He's going to be a solid player, especially now that they have to worry about Butler. I think he's going to get shots easier, and he can, he'll be a double-double every time he plays. So he'll be pretty solid, but his scoring is going to go down just because they have Butler now.
Yeah.
And now that Wiggins is doing much better than he was last year.
Mm-hmm. So moving on to number two, we have DeMarcus Cousins, who I think is close to Karl Anthony Towns. I think they're very close in a sense where they can both kind of spread the floor as a center, and they're versatile. I think that DeMarcus Cousins may be the first just because he can rebound a lot, but there also is another person in the paint, Anthony Davis, who kind of takes away from DeMarcus Cousins. But I think I saw a picture where each of them at least had 10 rebounds, with I think DeMarcus with 18 rebounds, even though he does have Anthony Davis. I just think they need more help there. Drew Holiday, I think, is a decent point guard. I don't think that he's the point guard. I think he's not the point guard they deserve. It's the point guard they need.
I think Towns is. I mean, I'd say that Towns is the overall better player than Cousins, just because I think he's the best shooter on his team, and he also has point guard handles as a 7-foot, beast of an athlete.
Yeah.
So, and same thing with Cousins. I just don't see it working with him and Davis. I mean, I know they tried it last year, but I think it's kind of the same situation as Paul and Harden, where they're almost like the same player who demand the ball.
Mm-hmm.
So, I just don't see that experiment working. So that's why I'd say Towns is a solid one.
So moving on to somebody else who's kind of by themselves now that Gordon Hayward left is Rudy Gobert. Pretty good defensive player. I don't know if I'd put him above Jokic and Whiteside just because his scoring is not really there, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But a lot of people have him ranked high just because he is on his own. So if I had to predict his stat line, I'd say maybe like 12 points and maybe averaging 14 rebounds, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, it's tough. He's a solid player. Like, not even considering fantasy, just in normal regular basketball, he's a solid player.
Mm-hmm.
But when you need points from him and stuff, I don't think he was going to get you that. Maybe he has to now, just because he's the only guy there. But when you compare him to Whiteside, I think Whiteside's probably got a higher upside in terms of his offensive game. And I think I'd even put Embiid as a better, more production than Gobert.
Embiid. My only concern with Embiid is his health. I think that only playing 30-something games is not, in 4 years, is not ideal. I don't know. That's why I have him ranked at 6. I just don't. I just don't really like him as a player. Like, you can't be that confident with only 30 games played.
You kind of need to, though. I mean, once you get to that kind of level of competition, I think you need to have that sense of where you know you're the best. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
It's kind of like that mentality, like, cornerback one-on-one. I know I'm going to lock you down no matter what. That's just what fuels me. And I think that's kind of the same thing what Embiid goes off of. But, yeah, I don't know. The team's young. They haven't really done much yet, so we'll see.
Yeah, I definitely think they make the playoffs this year just because of how weak the East is. So moving on from that, we have Brook Lopez, who's on the Lakers this year. As we saw today, he's the number one scorer on that team, which is kind of sad.
Lonzo's trash, bro.
It's okay. He'll develop.
Most overrated player in the NBA.
I don't know about overrated because I think we can get people that were supposed to be really good but haven't played at all. Like a Joel Embiid. I think that he might be overrated at this point. Like 20 to 30 games in 4 years is how many games that who's somebody that only played 20 to 30 games in their whole career. Imagine this. If you're a 76ers owner and Joel Embiid tears his ACL this year, what do you do?
You laugh.
I mean, there's really not much you can do about it. They still have Dario Saric, which, I mean, he's a solid player. Granted,
But
he's not a center.
I feel like even with Dario Saric, you have a backup fucking center and you don't play him. They do not play Jahlil Okafor at all, which boggles
he's just
my
garbage.
mind.
That's why.
Jahlil Okafor is not garbage. He'd be a quality center. I don't know. Jahlil Okafor is not a bust. I think that if you're behind Joel Embiid, that makes sense. But last year, they mishandled him so much. His development has gone out the window. If he is a bust, I would argue that it's Philly's fault because of it. You can't just have a young player like that and just have him on the bench and hope that his bench time equals him learning a lesson. Like, that's not how you develop a player.
Well, that's their fault for taking 3 big men, number 1 overall. And
I know, but if you're not going to use him, he's a young player, trade him. At this point, he's losing trade value the more you show that he's not going to play. If they would have traded him the same time you traded Nerlens Noel.
They should have kept Nerlens Noel.
I think Nerlens Noel's a bigger crybaby, though. He was asking for more minutes. Yeah, so going on from that, we have Nikola Vucevic from the Magic, who's a good player. I think him, Valanciunas, and Nurkic pretty much are all in the same tier, where they're not the best, but they're just okay at what they do.
Yeah, they're kind of like 10 and 10 guys.
Yeah.
Probably get you that double-double just on boards and points, but that's about it. I mean, that's all you could really ask for them.
All right, Nate. So before we go, do you want to say anything about the centers or anything?
Nothing really. I mean, just that Joel Embiid's kind of overrated right now, like y'all are saying. But other than that, there's not really that many great centers in the NBA anymore. If you think about it, there's only just a few.
I feel like if they are great centers, they have to be able to shoot, and I feel like most of the centers in the NBA aren't used to that. And I feel like the coming class, and then the coming classes of centers are learning how to shoot. You look at a guy like maybe Sharif O'Neal, who is maybe going to play the center position that can already shoot. You have Bol, who's already like 7'10". I don't know how fucking tall he is. He's like 7'4", and he can shoot. Mind you, he still needs to put meat on his bones, but he can shoot the ball. Marvin Bagley, who's a power forward, maybe playing the center position, can absolutely ball. We saw him in Pro-Am games this past summer, and he was balling against pretty much NBA players like DeRozan and some of the other guys that hopped in the Pro-Am this year. So I think that
where's Marc Gasol in this list?
That's probably somebody that I forgot. Marc Gasol, fuck, I forgot to add him.
He's
Maybe-
got to be at least, ahead of. He's probably 4.
4.
Probably
I think
Yeah.
maybe 6.
4 or 5.
I like
Just because
him.
he can shoot, you know.
Yeah, I like Whiteside better than him. I like Jokic because Jokic is pretty much a point center. He can
Yeah.
his passes are insane. I'd say maybe we move Gobert out. We put
I don't think you move him out.
no. I'm not saying we move him out of the list. I'm saying maybe we move
Oh.
him down, maybe to 6. Jokic at 4, Whiteside at 5, and then Embiid maybe Gasol. I'd put Gasol in front of Embiid just for now, just in case. Just in case Embiid doesn't finish out the season. I think that Gasol is going to be somebody that's really reliable for that team. Kind of like a Brook Lopez who's going to score and can shoot. So maybe Gobert at like 7. Maybe.
Yeah, well, I think you got to put DJ in there too. He's
But
not.
I just think that DeAndre Jordan is maybe like 8 points. I think most of his fantasy points are going to come from rebounds. If he wants to have a lot of fantasy value this year, he's going to have to do maybe at least like 15 rebounds a game because of his points as well as free throw shooting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm starting him over Nurkic
Uh-huh.
just because he's a freak on the boards, obviously, and
He's a freak.
he'll get you that at least 10 points off dunks and whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Alrighty, guys. That has been our rankings for the top 50, or the positional players. I think maybe we'll do a separate video for the top 50 players. This video is pretty much already 48 minutes. So thanks for watching. If you guys want us to do any other sports-related videos, Daniel and I and another friend are working on football stuff. Maybe if you guys want us to comment on more basketball stuff or even the World Series that's going on right now, just let us know in the comments section. You guys have anything else to say? Anything else to add before we go?
Lonzo's trash.
Stop hating on Lonzo.
Trash, bro.
Stop hating on my boy.
Overrated.
Oh my God.
Go Clippers. Western Conference Finals.
Fuck Clippers.
But I'd be surprised if the Clippers made it out of the first round.
Western Conference Finals.
Right.
Clippers, bro.
No, I don't think they're better than the Rockets. They're not better than the OKC Thunder. They're not better than the Spurs. I'd say even Portland might be better than them.
Just wait and see, bro. Wait and see.
I don't need to wait and
You heard
see.
it here first.
I've seen them fail miserably for the last 5 years, and now they don't have Chris Paul. So I think it only gets worse from there. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Do you have anything you guys want to say? Leave it in the comments. Leave a like. Nate, you wanna say anything?
Lace them up.
We back.
Remember to lace them up.